folks, we're pulling apart the dashboard to replace the speaker, which does the indicators, the headlight warning, the hazards, and the door opening. There's a speaker behind the instrument cluster. So this is an Australian right-hand drive 5-cylinder TD5 Touareg. So we're showing how to pull it apart. So the first thing you want to do is take off these trims here. You can just use your fingers or a blunt screwdriver, or you can actually use plastic removal tools, but you can simply grab down and pull these off just like that. And that exposes 2 screws. This screw you don't have to worry about. This one in here is what you'll need to undo. Move over to the other side where you've got the vent, and this one, same again, you can pull it off. Now I have already pulled off this side panel where the fuses are. You'll need to do that first. There's a very small lug on this right here. This lug actually goes into the side of this cover here. So take this off and then you will freely be able to pull this out. Now I have actually pulled this out already. The vent assembly, the vent open and close actually already comes out. It's just on clips, so you can just push it and it clips off. You can see the clips right there. It's just a little bit of mild force and it just clips into those places in there. So now you've got your 2 sections off. Same on this side. You've got 3 screws here, 1, 2, but this is the one you need to worry about, because what you want to do is take off this piece of plastic here, which has this flexible bit of leather or vinyl. So on most European cars they use Torx, which look like that. Some people refer to them as stars, but the majority of screws here are Torx 20. So it's just a very simple case, getting a 20mm Torx bit and just undoing the screws. So the Torx screws are out where my flexible bit of vinyl is. One thing you want to be careful of when you're pulling those original pieces of cover off, these little metal clips, they live in these square holes. You can see them here, and they're also on the other side. If they come out or they stay on the surrounds that have got your wood grain and your metal, you just need to sit them back in there. So now that that's off, all we simply need to do is lift this up like so. It is a tight fit. You can sort of bend it a little bit like a banana and just pull it all the way forward and rest it. So I've pulled it out like that, and you just rest it on your steering column. You don't need to do any more. The next thing you have to do is get underneath the binnacle cockpit. So there's a little plastic cover in here. I've actually already pulled it off, but I actually got it off with my fingernails. It's a matter of just pulling it down like so, and it will come down. So let me just show you. It's a bunch of clips. There's no screws, and it's actually a pretty flexible piece of plastic. So it just comes straight off. In there, that will expose 1, 2, and 3 screws. You just need to take them out to start with. Now that the screws are out, this is actually loose. This whole top section, these 2 pieces are actually one. So what you need to do is pull it forward like that, and it will actually just come out. There's nothing more to it, and the reinstallation is exactly the same. You want to leave a bit of a gap around there, and it's just a simple case, pushing it back in like that and reattaching the screws. So I'll just pull it out. So pull it forward towards the steering wheel and up. So now that you've got the binnacle off, you've actually got a lot more light. What you've actually got is this plastic surround here. Previously I showed you that there was 1, 2, 3 screws to take out for the cockpit. That was actually that middle screw there. You don't need to take that out. So now you just need to take off these screws, 1, 2, 3, and there's 2 screws back here, 1 here and 1 here. Take out those 5 screws, and this single piece of plastic which supports your instrument cluster will come out. Okay, so I've taken the 5 screws out, 3 across the front, 2 across the back, and this section just lifts up. It's not held in by any clips, it's only held in by the screws. That's all you need to do. And now the binnacle will be free. So if you haven't already done so, you obviously need to make sure your adjustable steering column is all the way forward towards the seat and all the way down. So now that you've got that supporting bracket off, The binnacle itself actually is not held in with any retaining screws whatsoever. It's actually just a bit of good design and good luck. So you can see that it's loose, but obviously it can't come forward. So the way to take it out, and in fact, I'll try and point it out as best I can. There's a small lug that sits in there, and there's a small lug which sits in there. There we go, we can see it now as I brighten up the video. Alright, so there's a lug like that on each side, and that actually prevents the binnacle from falling forward. So what you actually do is push it back into the dash, like that. And in fact, both sides will do it. When it's back into the dash, you can move the binnacle assembly that way. So you do that, and then out it comes. So you can see right now, it's just held on with a blue and a green connector, and I've got full access to behind my dash. So now what I need to do is take off these two connectors, and for that you'll just need a little jeweler's screwdriver, because you have to lift up these little purple connectors, and the action of lifting them up will eject them from their pins safely. So now we want to take out these two connectors. They are very fine pins, so you obviously want to make sure that you do a good job. So the act of pushing this lug right here will allow you to lift up this armature. Whoops, it's a bit hard with one hand. There we go. So I've just managed to get that lug down with one finger, but it's easier with two. So you lift, and it simply ejects your multi-pin connector. And of course, you do the same for here. So now you're out of the car and on the workbench, I would be putting down a microfiber cloth or something soft so you don't scratch your instruments on the other side. And also, because there is microelectronics in there, it is a really good idea to just drain your body of any static electricity. So walk up to a tap or something that's connected to earth and just grab onto it for a few seconds just to discharge. For these ones, you'll need a Torx bit again, but you'll need a T10. So you take out 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. When you take the 6 out, the black panel will fall away and the white panel will fall away. It doesn't matter if the black panel falls away. In fact, I took mine off and gave my instruments a really good clean. But you just pop these tabs off, and all you need to do is just take the white piece off. You don't have to take the black piece off, but they will both come away without any issue of damaging the meters. So now you've taken the screws out and you've disconnected the tabs. I've actually done this prior to. The speaker itself's in there, and there's a little 2-pin connector. Let me show you from the spare part that I've got. So I've already pulled the speaker out. It's just a very simple 2-wire connector, and there's the speaker. It actually lives in there. The wire's pretty short, so when you open it up, you will be constricted to how much you can actually open this. So I'm just going to give you an example as to how I opened it. But what I was able to do is just tilt it forward and tilt it that way, and then I could get to the connector. So the connector is there, and if the speaker had been in place, you would have seen this white connector on there, and it's quite stiff to get off, so you just wiggle it side to side and gently pull it up and it will come off. For the speaker itself, it's retained by these tabs, so like the other things, you can just actually push 2 tabs aside and gently insert a screwdriver in there and lift the speaker out. And then you'll be able to replace the speaker. So now we'll go into the speaker replacement. Again, this is all microelectronics in here. It doesn't matter whether you've got the low line display like I have, or whether you've got the high line display from the MFD. There's microelectronics in there. So now we're ready to insert the speaker. I actually got this off eBay. There's plenty of them on eBay. It's just a 32mm, 32 ohm speaker. I actually got it from Germany from a genuine Volkswagen, well, a guy who sells OEM parts, not branded Volkswagen. It was $7 Australian. So the orientation of the speaker is, that's what we call the front of the speaker, that's the rear. So the rear has to be facing up. you have to ensure that the wires are coming out in that little gap there. And it's a pretty simple process. You just put the speaker in and gently push around the edge and in the middle, and then it's in. It's located. There's no retaining wires or anything for the connector. Now it's just ready to be reinstalled onto the PCB. So now the speaker's installed, it's time to reinstall onto the PCB. You can see once again I am restricted by the length of the wires. What you'll need to take note of, and we'll fix this afterwards, is these little retaining pins here, which you can get to. They actually secure this connector. Again, the connector's pretty hard to get on. It's automotive grade, so it's quite stiff. But so long as there's a few mil of clearance between the bottom of the connector and the PCB, that's fine. You can put plenty of pressure on it and wiggle it on because the PCB is well supported. So what we have to do, in there is a couple of locating tabs. So when you put it on, my suggestion is get these wires and just give them a little gentle bend and have them coming out straight towards the left hand side of the instrument cluster. Then you get the cover, roughly line up your tabs on both sides, and then just take a peek in here. Right, I'm going to give you a bit more light. You'll see these couple of tabs in here. 1, 2. All you need to do when you're pressing the back on to get your tabs in place, you just give one of these a gentle push outward as you're pushing down, and that will allow those two arms to hug the speaker connector. If only the speaker was as well built as that. And then you can continue to go around and push home all your tabs. So you can now see that I've put the back on all the way. I've got all the tabs around the edge, but these little fingers now live underneath the very edge of the speaker connector. The speaker wires are still free to move, but the connector itself is held in by either of these two tabs. Okay, so now that our speaker is successfully in, the reverse applies for the connectors, of course. So what you need to do is make sure that your levers are all the way to the left, and you just insert them into their holes, ready to go. Now the reverse, of course, is required to get them in. You don't just push them, but you push and to get them going, and then push that lever, the bit of extra gentle pressure on the connector, and they will lock in. Right, so now that we've got it in, when you put the two connectors in, you'll hear the dials do a self-test. Although you can't see them, they recalibrate themselves. So before you put it all back together, I've just sat the dash in place. There's no screws. We obviously want to put the key in and make sure that our new speaker works. I'm just going to turn the ignition on. Ah, there we go. Wonderful. Wonderful. It works to a degree. Yes, I have indicators. If I pull the keys out and turn the lights on, yeah, it's wonderful, isn't it? Anyway, at least it's working. I won't be driving along telling people I'm turning left for 50 kilometers. That's the end of the tutorial. Obviously, the reverse is required to put it all back together, and good luck.